As a young boy growing up in England, David Attenborough would spend his weekends catching tadpoles, watching birds and collecting fossils. Like all children, he was smitten with the wonders of the natural world. But David Attenborough was luckier than most. He was able to turn that childhood passion into a lifelong and brilliant career. All our lives are wiser and richer for his breathtaking wildlife films. Today, Sir David Attenborough is 71, but to my delight, when I met him, he'd lost none of that childhood enthusiasm for our planet.
I am at the very centre of the great white continent, Antarctica. The South Pole is about half a mile away. For 1,000 miles...
Sometimes being David Attenborough looks like cold and lonely work.
The place that is most hostile to life. And yet, in one or two places, it is astonishingly rich.
For more than 40 years, almost since the very beginning of television, David Attenborough has roamed the world and taken us with him. From the Grand Canyon to the Amazon jungle, from the ocean floor to the forest canopy, he is a modern-day explorer whose travel journal is arguably the best television ever made. Is yours the best job in the world?
Yes. I mean, for me, I dare say other people may not think it's the best job, it's only the second best job. But for me, it's the best job in the world.
And does it constantly amaze you that people are prepared to pay you to go
Astounding.
and do this?
Absolutely astounding.
David Attenborough is in Australia, in the Victorian bush, filming his latest epic, The Life of Birds. It's a 3-year project and it's halfway finished. If only he can find that elusive lyrebird, which up until now has avoided him.
Oh, well, a lyrebird is a very special thing. I mean, the lyrebird is in the top sort of 10 of the great, wonderful birds in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
The lyrebird finally appears, and at last I have the opportunity to observe one of the most unique sights in the natural world. David Attenborough at work.
What bird has the most elaborate, the most complex, and the most beautiful song in the world? Well, I guess there are lots of contenders, but this bird must be one of them. The superb lyrebird of southern Australia.
They lured him in by setting up speakers and playing an irresistible tune, the song of the lyrebird. A low trick, but an effective one. But these ones, of course, are a bit familiar with people, aren't they? They're on the edge of the park, they're near the camping ground.
That's right, that's right. And it is astonishing, really, how if the human race decides it wants to be friendly towards something, how the thing will respond. I mean, we were up in Ulladulla the other day, you know, with, 1,000 rainbow lorikeets settling all over you.
Yes, the blossoms, when they do have a need for a messenger, such as these lorikeets, advertise.
I've got blood still dripping down my face. It's from the scars of these things on my head.
Now, David, of course, I suppose that you do this all the time. In the jungles of Borneo or the Himalayas.
Well, I'm taking lessons anyway.
Were you ever a Boy Scout?
Yep, certainly was. I can't understand how people don't know how to tie knots, you know?
That's right. Well, the only one I retain is a reef knot.
Oh, come on.
No, I have forgotten. It's true.
You can't do a bowline.
No.
What? A sheep shank?
No, I have forgotten these.
What?
You've remembered all this, have you?
I use them all the time.
Did you get... Attenborough is the living embodiment of television natural history. Wildlife programs began with him. Having studied zoology and geology at Cambridge, in 1952, the BBC offered him a job in a new business they thought might have some future. It was called television. This was one of his earliest great quests, to New Guinea in 1957 in pursuit of the legendary birds of paradise.
Going to New Guinea and taking part with the patrol where there were 100 porters carrying things on their heads and with no support by airdrop and going into a valley where no Europeans had been before, all that, that was a thrill of a lifetime.
Almost 40 years would pass before he was again able to film those remarkable creatures, this time in full colour.
Well, the last sequence that just blew my mind was a bird of paradise putting out its little black skirt and assembling an audience of females and doing this extraordinary balletic dance. And then finally sort of making this with its head, so it's pennants on the, go round and round and round, and then suddenly, woof, he jumps straight up and copulates with one of the females in the dress circle.
And you did note in the voiceover that this was didn't look terribly satisfactory. It was a bit quick.
Yes, it was.
Human beings make much more of a meal of these matters, don't they?
That's a way of putting it, yes. Yes.
Nobody knows exactly how many different kinds of animals there are here. Wherever you look, there's life.
You know, why are natural history films popular on television? Why do they get audiences of millions? Because people of all kinds, ages, educations, callings, whatever, everybody has a feeling for nature, and God help humanity, you know, when that disappeared.
The series was, in fact, the greatest story ever told, the evolution of life on our planet. And in the final episode in Rwanda came Attenborough's most celebrated...
Because, of course, the great thing about gorillas, or all primates really, is that they are so close to us that it is possible for you to empathise, it's possible for you to sort of go into their world. You can't go into the world of a lion. You know.
Was there communication, as we would understand?
I think there was, in as much as that, I mean, when you look back on it now, they could have smashed my head with one blow of their fist. I mean, but I knew they weren't going to.
Were you scared?
Well. No, that's what I mean. I mean, I knew perfectly well that they weren't aggressive.
Potentially more dangerous were the great bull elephant seals, the irascible stars of his series on Antarctica, Life in the Freezer.
And his sole object in life at the moment is to make quite sure that he and he alone mates with every single one of them. And to that, he must fight.
Modestly, David says it's a cameraman who take the risks. To film these dramatic pictures of killer whales attacking seals, they had to lie down among the quarry in the killing zone. Is that some of the most amazing footage you've ever seen?
I mean, that was just mind-blowing footage, yes. But all the footage that you might pick out in any series that I've done, the credit is always with the cameraman.
Can you put a price on that kind of footage?
No, and you can't put a price on the dedication and skill and patience and endurance of a wildlife cameraman.
I've been lately feeling sorry for the male of the species, not just our species, but the emperor penguin, for instance. Now, that's a pretty lousy deal, isn't it? What is it, 120 days in the winter, on the ice, nothing to eat, nursing the egg, going round and round in a coil.
Yeah.
What sort of life's that?
What sort of life's that? Getting on the Piccadilly line at Earl's Court, you know, jammed up there with 350 other people smelling cigarettes and getting out in the pouring rain. It's horrible.
Got to be better than the emperor penguins.
Don't you believe it? You're in there with your mates.
Meanwhile, their women are off on an ocean cruise, gorging themselves.
Yeah, they come back and they look after the kids.
So obsessed is he with managing this mound that if someone interferes with it, his first instinct is to put that right.
I suppose one of the things that does sort of amuse me is that people think that it's kind of eccentric to be whispering or speaking in a low voice. And anybody who thinks that can never have been near a wild animal and be trying to get it to behave in a normal way. Because if you're near a lyrebird or a gorilla, or it doesn't matter what it is, you don't say, well, here I am next door to a lyrebird. You know, you say, well, here I am with this extraordinary bird. And you try not to wave your arms about, too, if you possibly can.
Look, it's one of the things about the human species is in all the other ways we are driven, we also all do David Attenborough impersonations.
You do?
Yeah.
Do one.
Meanwhile, the billy has finally boiled, and thus begins a strange and time-honoured Australian ritual.
Are you ready for this?
Yes. You mean to say this is part of your traditions?
This is one of the great Australian traditions.
What do you do that for?
Because we do, David. It probably does nothing for the tea.
No, I do.
Then you tap the side,
Oh, that's good.
and then you burn your fingers trying to get the bloody lid off. David spends 6 months away from home every year and is a frequent visitor to Australia.
No milk, there's no sugar.
He has grandchildren here, and it's also the perfect place for a spot of sightseeing.
You come and you look and you think, God, look at those parrots, you know. Wow, look at those butterflies. And look at those fantastic. I've just been looking at a few sort of lizards in the centre, you know, and you think, oh, what beautiful things. Wonderful things.
David Attenborough never preaches conservation.
She has to shed them directly.
He believes the best way to save the world is simply to show it to us. He's been doing that for nearly half a century, and at 71 is still doing it brilliantly. Do you have any idea how much pleasure you've brought to the rest of us?
I mean, it isn't me that brought the pleasure. I mean, look, you don't have to be great, really, to expose people to birds of paradise, and they think that birds of paradise are wonderful. They are wonderful. All you have to do is to make sure you don't get between them and the audience and the camera too much, you know? I mean, with such things to show, how can you fail to produce programs that don't excite people?
Hello, I'm Sarah Abo. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our Extra Minutes segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.